This is Scott Miller, Engine Room for English Rockers, the Dutch Coda. Scott, how are you?
I'm good, Darren. It's good to talk to you. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. I'm great. I was really anticipating, listening to the album. I've been bugging John for a couple of weeks because he's like a buddy of mine on Messenger, and I'm saying, when's the album? When's the album? He's going, speak to Valeria. Have you not got one? He's like, no, a couple of weeks. We had such a good laugh when I spoke to him last May.
Yeah.
And obviously, like rock stars, you don't want to badger people, and go, oh, I wonder what he's up to, because you kind of get a connection. But I thought, when my boss told me the album was coming out, I thought, yeah, I can't wait. And you get snippets of it, and I was just absolutely. I don't know if you've read my review. You probably haven't.
Yeah, no, I have. I think it came out in the last couple of days, didn't it? I've definitely seen one very recently.
Yeah, I sent it on the 16th of March.
Yeah.
So, and obviously what we do is we send it to Valeria and then send it to you guys, and then you guys share it out. But I must say, from the first note, I was just blown away.
Awesome.
It's a real shift, really a lot heavier. It's a lot grittier. That you can feel just the rawness.
Yeah.
Coming from it.
Well, no, I'm really glad you enjoyed it, and thank you for the kind words. We've started to see quite a few of the reviews come in now, as you can imagine, like a week or so before actually releasing it, and it's just amazing and quite humbling, and just to see that people are getting the idea, loving the album as a whole piece of work, and referencing some of the different styles and the journey the album takes you on, which is, it's that old cliche about second album syndrome. It's supposed to be really hard, and this was hard. It had its difficulties, and we put a lot of time and effort into it, and you just want to create the best product you possibly can. So to finally get it out there, considering we had it under wraps since 2019, to finally get it out there, and with Earache backing it, it's just been incredible, and the responses have been great, and we're really appreciative. And it's been a pretty I won't swear, tough year for a lot of people.
Scott, here at Just Media, you can say what you like, we don't care. Yes. I'll probably swear it's anyway, so it doesn't matter.
It's been a shit year, hasn't it? I think everyone would agree with that. For the whole world, it's been a shit year, but we have had, this project and this album release that's kept us going as individuals and the band. It's been really exciting. Yeah. And I think it's quite fitting that it's getting released at a time just as things start to be, looking a bit more optimistic. And especially with the single we just released, Dreamer Light, I think, it's a great title for the world we live in, and keep going, things will get better. And here we go, here's an album that hopefully helps you through the last couple of weeks before we can all go and have a pint and go to a gig at some point.
I think that's the most important thing, and you see a lot of people say, we're releasing an album through lockdown, but for me as a reviewer, I probably get 50 pieces of music every week. So there are musicians, and there are companies, and there are PR people who want to get stuff out there, because I think that you're right, the missing of the gigs, and just the interaction of the crowd is a major thing, for you guys. Like you said, you've had it under wraps since 2019, and obviously I'll be digging John about that, because he never told me that. He said
he kept it secret.
We're working on something, and I'm like, yeah, but you've got an EP out, and he went, yeah, what, anything else coming? No, yeah. I'm like, yeah, but for you guys to work on it and put your heart and soul into it, and have to keep it under wraps, for this length of time, is a major thing, because in between that, you can't go out and play shows, and showcase some of it while you're waiting on the pandemic to ease.
Yeah, and it's again, we count ourselves really lucky in that we'd recorded it, as I said, through 2019, and had it in the can at the back end of the year, and then obviously the start of 2020, or from March onwards, the whole industry stopped. The world was on lockdown, and no one knew what to do really. And we were in that boat, but we had the huge advantage of having the deal with Earache coming through in summer last year with the album ready to go. And also, we didn't have to cancel anything. We didn't have a big tour lined up. We didn't have the release plan for the album until we started talking to Earache. So it's as you know, as horrendous as a year it's been in general. It kind of the way our plan has worked out has been pretty good, to be honest, in that we were able to do the promotional campaign and release some singles through the last few months, back end of last year and into this year. And then as we release it and more people hear about us now in spring 2021, with hopefully some festivals and some gigs happening over summer, but if not, the back end of the year looks a lot more likely. We're just kind of counting our lucky stars, really. The stars align for us, and it's we've been a band for coming up 10 years. There's a lot of it's like every rock and roll story. There's a lot behind the scenes that you probably don't know about, but it's a tough old journey, and we're just really pleased that.
Listen, I get Scott, that that in all bands it's tough because you spend a lot of time together, and you have maybe disagreements, and you have ideas that some guys don't like, and you think, well, I'm going to throw my rattle at the pram, don't want to talk to you anymore, go off, and you think, no, we need to get back together, because as a unit, you're a juggernaut, you're an absolute juggernaut of a band that deserves every success, when it comes, because this is an absolute stonker.
Thank you.
It's a beast, you stick it on and you go, wow, that's really good. Wow, that's really good. Wow, that's really good. Wow, that's, and you just, I think wave after wave of song that you listen to. And as a reviewer, I don't go on and say, oh, yes, there's 12 tracks or 11 tracks, and I liked 7, I didn't like 4, because that's just going to piss on your parade. You and the guys have worked for a long time to put it together, and you don't want some half-ass reviewer coming on and saying, yeah, I liked some of it, but not all of it, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. You're just going to go, yeah, do you know what? Fuck you, mate. Do you know what I mean? So, for me, it's like I like to listen to the album. I like to absorb it. I play it through once, and then I grab myself a glass of red.
Nice.
And I sit and I immerse myself in it, and like I want to make it like I'm sitting in the front row with you guys blasting out, and I'm thinking I can hear every note and every musician's part. Your drums, the drums are just soaring through the album like fucking knife through butter. It's phenomenal.
Awesome.
It's phenomenal. The boy that sings is no bad. He's all right.
Well, yeah, he's not.
He's Australian as well, so that has its downfalls and not Scott. So.
I was going to say, don't tell him how good he is. It's making it even worse.
I think when we spoke about the 4-track EP, and I think when I told him that the first track was my favourite, I think he just had an orgasm. He was like, wow, and I'm like, he says, but don't tell anybody. And I was like, okay, don't worry about it, But I think as moving on with this record, it's just an incredible piece of music, and I think he must be proud of it.
Yeah, like really proud of it. And as I said, we went into it sort of knowing that it's tough creating a second album, because for songwriters and a band, the first album is usually their best material to date. Do you know what I mean? It could be that some of the songs have existed since the songwriter was 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you record the album 10, 15 years later. It's your life's work up to that point, and it's your set list that you might have been touring for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So the songs are so well formed and ready to go into the studio and just smash it, which is the experience we had with our first album. And the feedback on that was really good. So coming out of that, we were kind of thinking, shit, we need to come up with another 12 just as good songs. But in terms of the process that I think helped kind of shape the album, there's a couple of tracks on there that actually existed pre the first album, even that were sort of in development and didn't quite make the cut because we hadn't, found the right style or context for those songs. Jimmy Two Times is one of those that John wrote years ago, and that came to life when we just pulled the groove back a little bit, and we put horns on it, and we put keys on it, and we just changed the whole dynamic of that song to mean it fits on the second album really well.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't quite ready for the first album. Demon, the song that opens it, was also one that riff came about probably just after we'd recorded the first album, but it's very much in that style. I think that straight down the line hard rock. It's us. It's the opening track. You know what you get, and it's the TDC sound, and that gave us a really good sort of nucleus to build the rest of the album on. And I mean, John's got this thing about wanting, he wants 12 singles on an album. Your point about having, 70% of it is great and the rest is filler. We try and not do that as best as we can. So there's a lot of time that goes into making the song sound as good as they can, and it's one of the reasons it's taken us 4 years to come back with the second album. But
I think the thing is that I think when you get the first song coming out of the album, you can say to yourself, I know what's coming out of the other 11 tracks, because it just hits you straight in the face and you're like, wow, because it's such a move from the first album, and it's a total nuclear shift from what you did in the first to this one, because it's a heavier groove. You can almost say that you've, and this is not a cheeky, but you've evolved as musicians.
We definitely have.
You've came full circle and you've went, we're going to produce this. And I get what you're saying. On the first album, you've pent up frustration of all your teenage years, and you've written all these songs, and you're thinking,
it's all of that.
Epic. And then the second album comes along, and you go, we need to up the ante, because when people look at a second album, they go, this has to be good, and when it comes out, people go, fuck me, that was just incredible. It's just a real hard rocking, groove filled, drum thrashing scream of an album that's got lots for everyone. It's got, the ballad styles, it's got your heavy funky groove, it's got the deep bass, it's got the smashing drums, and the dude that sings is no bad. He's got a couple of good notes and all. So it's a real cracking album. And I think when you listen, you go Demon, and you play through the album and you break down and Limbo Man, and you go, these are a couple of singles, and the stuff that kind of stands out for me, Dream of Light is a favourite of mine, and I've Been Waiting is another favourite. They're
quite different songs as well, aren't they?
Do you know that when you listen to it, you think you've had a wee tectonic shift from the groove rock and stuff, and you move to this, and you think, wow, that's just amazing. It's incredible.
It's Dream of Light is my favourite song as well. I think we've all spoken quite publicly about our favourite songs, and Adam and John's, I think they both agree on Rolling, which is more of a 7-minute epic.
Yeah.
But the way, there was a period when we were writing the album that John loves his singer-songwriters, like any singer-songwriter does, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, or whatever. But he was also dabbling a little bit in some more, I suppose, Americana, like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And I love all that stuff. The Cadillac 3 are one of my favorite bands, and that, that's very modern Americana, but right back to that whole Laurel Canyon period. And so Dream of Light, I think it's a bit more commercial than that, but I've always loved personally just a melody, a really attractive sing-along song, whether that's like something like Free Falling by Tom Petty or Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses, have that same quality of a great melody. And I think Dream of Light sort of straddles those kind of areas, and just for me it just bursts out. And Waiting, the other one, I've Been Waiting, is really kind of sort of raw. It's like me playing a Bonham style drum beat. There's quite limited production on it, and it's just growling guitars and shouting. And it's just it's so much fun when we can put an album together like that, because we've got our style as a band and as musicians. And I think you're right to say evolution is what's happened in the last few years, but it's not, we wouldn't say we are straight down the line hard rock or classic rock, or we're rock and roll. And I think within that you can throw any, it could be Springsteen, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Rolling Stones. We just put it in a pot, kind of mix it up and see what comes out. And it's what better formula is there?
I kind of think that if you kind of say yourself you're a hard rock band, you kind of get that label.
Yeah.
But I think that now, you know, you look at, you know, one of our very own, King.
Yeah, they're great.
You know, who've got that kind of soulful blues, but they've got the Rispin guitar going through as well. And I think you're right. There's a lot of people, you know, bringing that into their music because it seems like, you know, that's the way to go. You have a couple of hard rocking songs, you get a bit of thumping bass and a good drum beat and a wee bit of you know, rispy guitar, and people think, wow, it's a real good groove. And then
Yeah.
put your songs, your lyrics to it, and your melodies, and people go, "Fuck me, it's not a rock song." And that's, I think, what's good about it. You can put your twist on it, and people say, "Yeah, it suits Dutch Coda. It's got that." You know, you're right. It's got the rasping vocals. It's got the Bonham style beat, and people go, "Wow, that's just you can sit and listen to that all night." Do you know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong with, you know, being able to sing along to a song or even dance to a song. You know, it's about, you know, a feeling or some sort of attachment people can have to a piece of music. And
Absolutely.
you know, there's a bit of fun on this album as well. I mean, It's a Jam's got some pretty fruity lyrics which are great. It's, you know, and they don't know rock and roll, which is a bit of a swipe on sort of TV based music shows, and you know, a little bit of topical fun stuff in there, and it just all came together in a great way, we think, and the album Mojo Skyline. And now it's just time for everyone else to hear it and hopefully jump on board.
Now, what's the plan? Wait for lockdown to ease and then go out and do some shows, or you've got some stuff planned already?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of festivals that we're hoping happen and that we get to play. So we're playing Call of the World in Lincolnshire in July, I think, and Rambling Man Goes Ahead will be there. And then we are working towards our own tour at the back end of the year. So UK tour, kind of headline shows for us. And hopefully by then, you know, things will be a lot better. And because we want to play to full venues, you know, sweaty rock clubs, warm pints of, you know, shit lager. And I think what I've noticed the last few weeks, back to this point around optimism, the rock scene, which is the best scene, of course, have started to come out. You know, the fans have come out and started to say, you know, we want to go back to festivals, we want to go back to music venues. At the start of the pandemic, something that hit me quite a lot just personally was, and this wasn't from necessarily specific music fans or fans of ours or anything, but people saying, you know, I can't envisage ever going to a festival again or being in a crowd of people. And, you know, I was just sitting there thinking that, you know, this is, my life is built towards playing in front of crowds of people. And if you watch, I got into this, you know, the YouTube tunnel of watching just old live shows of big bands playing Hyde Park or playing Glastonbury, and just seeing that sense of community and thinking there's people in powerful positions saying this sort of thing might never happen again. And that really hit me, and I'm sure it did a lot of musicians. But the point being, what I've seen more recently and with the rock bands is they have come out and said, no, we'll be there. If you're playing a festival, we're coming. Obviously, you know, things have got to be safe and it's got to be sensible, but it feels like the appetite for live music shows is probably going to be bigger than it was. We just can't wait to get out there.
I think what you'll get, Scott, I think you'll get, probably when they say it's safe, I think you'll get every band on the planet will go, let's go on tour. And I guess every city in Britain will have a gig on every night, probably for 6 months, because people will just go, I don't give a shit how much I spend. I want to go and get
back out there,
and watch the sweat dripping off the roof, you know, to see my favourite band. And I think that's you're right. I think that's the important thing, that people say we want to get back to live music. You know, I'm very fortunate, you know, and I use this lightly for yourself. You're very fortunate, but I'm very fortunate that I get to listen to new music every single day. So you kind of know what's coming out. You kind of know what's fresh. You know what's coming to you, and you kind of think, I can see that in 6 months, in, you know, King Tut's or the Barrowland or the Classic Grand or the O2. You know, there's rock in the house, and I feel very fortunate, you know, and I'm very privileged that I get to listen to something like you guys, and, you know, and call John, you know, loosely a friend, you know, when you talk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I think that's really important that, you know, when you know you're coming, we're going to go, we're going to get some tickets, we're going to come up, we're going to review the show, we'll catch a beer afterwards, you know, and just chat about, because you will obviously be saying, what about last year? We did nothing.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think it's all that the buzz will be, let's get out on our own tour and let's, you know, just rock the house. You know what I mean?
It's what we thrive on and always have. As much as we enjoy going to the studio and writing, being on a stage, you know, playing together, hanging out afterwards and getting pissed and meeting everyone and just having those connections. We just can't lose sight of that. That's such an important part of music. And so yeah, the second we can get out there and do it and people are up for it, we will be there.
You're going to come. You're going to come to Scotland, I take it.
For sure, yeah. I mentioned it was I think I was speaking to someone else, but although my accent obviously doesn't give it away, I class myself as Scottish, by the way. In that,
tell the listeners why, because this will be interesting.
The big reveal. So yeah, you can probably tell by my accent. I brought up in the home county, so very southern England, but to a Glaswegian mother, and my dad was from Edinburgh, and Scottish roots, you know, right through the history. I've got a couple of tartans, and I'll wear a kilt to a wedding type thing. So I was brought up to be very proud of my Scottish roots, support Scotland in sport, play for Scotland, you know, if I was good enough. So it always, and I've got lots of family still in Glasgow who keep whinging on at me to get up there and play. Mentioning Glasgow specifically, but you know, I know Scotland's a big place, but yeah, we'll be up there because it holds a special place in my heart. And you know, the rock and roll history, AC/DC, I know they moved, but they're born and bred.
Yeah,
Scots.
It's quite interesting because my son lives in Melbourne just now.
Okay.
And he's been like stoating about and taking pictures of like Glasgow Avenue, you know, and AC/DC Lane when he's you know. And I've been trying to get him to go to some shows because Australia is kind of open at the moment. There's a couple of bands that I've recently reviewed, and I said to him, "Look, go along, you know, take some pictures and do a bit of writing for me, and then I'll do a live broadcast and stuff." And he's like, "It's like bloody hell, Dad," you know. And I'm trying to get him into the rock scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, man. And he says, who are you interviewing this week? Who are you interviewing this week? Who are you interviewing this week? I'm like, yeah, I've got a couple of interviews, a couple of bands. And he's starting to take an interest, you know.
Nice.
He, like yourself, he's half Scottish. You know, he was born in England, but obviously his dad's Scottish and his mum's English. You know, so he obviously takes a ribbon and all. So you'll be getting a ribbon too, Scott. So don't worry.
Well, it's great. Yeah, I mean, growing up in school, you know, Southern English school, as someone claiming to be Scottish was quite tough. I've earned my stripes to call myself Scottish. But just to go full circle with the AC/DC thing, John is obviously very Australian.
Yes.
So you know, if AC/DC are a bit Australian and a bit Scottish, we'll follow in their footsteps.
As long as you have the Scottish flag on stage when you come on, Scott, then I'll be like, yeah, that's my mate up there.
Well, exactly, and I like the King guy. I forget his name, but he wears a kilt when he plays, doesn't he?
Alan. Yeah, Alan. He's a really good friend of mine. You know.
Yeah.
Much as like the group Gun as well. I'm really friends.
Yeah, we played with Gun. Yeah, and I mean the topical Scottish rock news. Mason Hill obviously smashing it in the last few weeks with their album, which is amazing and charting.
Absolutely, it's incredible. You know, I kind of grew up with these guys. About 6 years ago, they introduced their 4-track EP. And then I was working for another company at the time, and we said, let's try and do something with you, you know. And we got them loads of shows, you know, doing Download and playing with Airborne and people like that, you know, Dead Daisies and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're in a crest of a wave at the moment, and it's really good that there is a Scottish, you know, some Scottish blood still coming out, because, you know, you have your Texases and you have your Guns. You know, and it's nice that there's another band coming through, you know, and carrying the flag, because they're a great bunch of boys, you know, and they're very humble about the fact that people want to buy the album, that people want to come and see them, you know. So that'll be it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great emerging for Scotland, obviously, but bands like Mason Hill and, you know, for us on the label, Those Damn Crows and Massive Wagons, who have broke through into the charts, have just set this precedent that rock and roll is still very healthy. It's not dead. There's so many great bands out there that you can go and support, and some of them are starting to hit the charts and get, you know, big recognition. And, you know, we're just trying to do our piece in that puzzle. And, you know, there'll be more bands coming behind us, and it's just the whole scene seems sort of vibrant, bubbling away at the moment.
It's very vibrant, Scott. I think, you know, you're right. Rock and roll is alive and well. There's so many bands coming through, but the bands like yourself and Massive Wagons and Those Damn Crows, who it's like a resurgence of new rock. You know, it's a different sound. You know, it's a bit of rawness. There's a bit of, obviously with the Wagons, there's a bit of Slade in there. You know, that. But it's a funky Slade, if you know what I mean. They've got their own style, like you guys. You know, and Those Damn Crows. You know, and Inglorious. These people who are bands who are coming through and doing their bit. It's just incredible. You know, and I just can't wait for, you know, the music scene to explode again. And get out there. And I think my last gig, I was actually on an interview last night with Lips from Anvil.
Okay, nice.
And the last time I saw him was last March. You know, we were just chatting, and he said, I had to go home to Toronto, he said, and I haven't done anything in over a year. Do you know, so it's really hard, and I guess it's just wanting to get you guys out there to, you know, fill our heads full of rock, get some pints in us, and just
absolutely. There's a lot of pent up creativity, frustration, aggression, like whatever, that just needs to get out there from both bands and fans, and
absolutely,
you know, it's a magical combo.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I know you've got your dinner to get, so
are you giving away the secret?
Yeah, listen, the listeners will know that you're going to get your dinner and all that. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Say hi to the guys for me. Tell John I still think his single's a really cool single, but, you know, let him savor in that bit, you know.
I'll give him that. No, but no, Darren, it's been really good to catch up, and thanks for you know, for all your support throughout the years now.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. When you come to Scotland, give us a shout. We will come through. We will do an interview. We will cover the gig. We'll get a couple of glasses of wine, and we'll just talk a bit of shit.
Very much look forward to that.
We'll get into that. But this is Darren from Jess Media with Scott from the Dust Coda, chatting all things music. The new album Mojo Skyline is out next week. It's an absolute stonker. Please go and buy it. Support these guys. They're a good bunch of lads. Singer's not a bad dude, but, you know, we'll get there. Thanks a lot, Scott, for your time.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Darren.
Take care, buddy.